So let's talk about race and specifically how can we move from looking at one another in particular racial categories to seeing one another as belonging to the human race. Now, I come from a standpoint that every human being that has existed, is existing, or will exist come from one blood. We come from one blood, but also we share what is called the Imago Dei. Every man, woman, and child, past, present, and future, made in the image and likeness of God. In the West, we had an interesting phenomenon that erupted, looking at one another through a racial lens. Now, admittedly, we can look at this as a consequence of what happened regarding slavery, regarding colonization, and a host of other unfortunate situations that developed over periods of time. Moving forward, here in America, we had slavery institutionalized, codified in law. To a point, in order to address that, we had to come to an unfortunate war called the Civil War. Out of that, we had Reconstruction, Jim Crow. Out of that, what came about was the rise of the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power movement, and other movements that have brought us to today. But one of the problems with race and looking at one another through racial lenses is that we can tend to think that one group is not as human as the group to which I belong to. I can look at a group because I have a particular physical characteristics, particular culture, particular way of speaking, particular way of looking at God, economics, community. I can look at another group, and because that group is different than me on the basis of their physical characteristics, I can then depersonalize them. And that depersonalization through racism can occur between individuals. Again, it can occur between particular institutions. And in some cases, it can occur by one racial group who has an individual losing his or her life at the hands of another individual who belongs to another racial category. But the reality is this, is that because we are all image bearers of God, and that we all come from the same blood, thirdly, we also have common experiences. Look at America. We have individuals, regardless of racial category, who are wealthy. Those in the middle class, those who are low income, those that are homeless. Regardless of racial category, we have men and women who are profound in sports, politics, education. We have affluent Black millionaires, billionaires. There's white millionaires and billionaires. There's Latino millionaires, Asians, men and women of a variety of racial categories that belong to various spheres of society. But then we also have men and women from all different of these racial categories who experience poverty, who experience homelessness, who experience a lack of education, who experience an inability to function in a job, be an entrepreneur. Men and women from a variety of different racial backgrounds who experience the blessings and the sufferings of what it means to be a human being. And so, what does it mean to transcend race? How can this move us forward in the 21st century and beyond? It requires first the recognition that we're all human beings. Second, it requires the recognition that we identify with particular groups. Third, it is the recognition that men and women and children, regardless of their physical characteristics, ethnic background, or racial categories, people experience both the blessings and the sufferings of the human experience. And fourthly, we have to recognize that the blessings and the sufferings of the human experience are the outcomes of a variety of different influences. That we need to move away from using what would be called a univariate explanation. That the reason somebody prospers or the reason that somebody is suffering is wholly due to race. So let's move forward. Let's seek to transcend race and recognize that every man, woman, and child, past, present, and future, made in the image and likeness of God, tied together by blood, are participants in this human experience of blessing and suffering. And let's continue to walk together.